Good afternoon, everybody. Today's our topic for CBRN is personal protection equipment and emergency response on chemical disaster management. So, as we all know that we have learned about certain rules and regulations in the second phase, then we have seen some international statutes, then we have seen some technologies by which we generally search the mechanism of finding the chemical agents or some to some part biological agents. So here we will focus upon PPEs which the first responders would require to effectively cater the situation arises due to chemical disasters per se. So it would be a very good your understanding process because whenever a first responder goes to an incident, it requires certain type of parameters, certain types of PP, certain types of equipment to equip itself to save from any emergency or disaster whenever he or she go for the response part. So as a first responder, because I assume that most of us are having vast experience in this field right now, and we all are multi-stakeholder and multi-domain specific people. So I think we should understand certain things about PPs, which generally requires in case of emergencies to handle chemical emergencies or say chemical safety or chemical disasters per se. So moving to that, what do we understand by PP is the first requirement and what is the PP requirements? So PP, personal protective equipment, as the word itself elaborate, personal protective equipment, that equipment that gives us safety in as person or personally. For example, you can see the figure here. Two people are wearing certain things and certain boots are here, certain things are there, and it is also here. So we can easily understand that these type of requirements is there, or you can say a simple blanket or clothing which should be competent and compatible to handle any kind of situation that arises for the chemical emergencies or chemical disaster. So it is a responsibility of each and every organization that they should address the proper PP. Might be in case of incidents, might be in case of chemical equipments, chemical manufacturing processes, or CBRN incidents per se. Wherever it is there, we have to focus upon this program and that PP should be there. So it is the responsibility of all organizations that they must address the following PP requirements in their written PP program and incorporate these elements in all site specific work. It is not particular about only incident part or only response part. Even for the pre-disaster or say post-disaster is also, if we can handle these things and if we utilize all these things, we can easily mitigate the disasters in a very safely manner. Why I'm quoting all this thing? Because generally you have seen the Bhopal disasters, and after the disaster also, for a long period of time, it has been witnessed that the incident site requires certain type of modifications, or what we can say the toxicity of that particular zone is present. So whenever somebody is going for the sampling part, somebody is going for assessing the site, then also it is evident that the contaminants can be there, or contamination or exposure to hazardous material can be find out. So there are certain things which we have to focus upon. Here I put in certain important things, that is the requirements for PP, because when we understand the PP requirement, then only we can proceed further to understand the nature. So here I put it on-site medical monitoring first, then PPE training, PPE inspection, cleaning, maintenance and storage, fitting, donning and doffing PPE, controlling the hazards associated with the PPE use. So we have to focus upon all the parameter, or say all the cycles should be completed. It is not like that we have provided certain type of material to our group or say group of responders, and then when they go on the site they fail. Regarding the PP training, they should know how to properly use the PP, how to go for the inspection, cleaning, how to wear PP, how to clear PPs, and how to control hazard associated with the use of PP. So one by one, we will try to understand what type of requirement is there whenever we are using a PP on site or after the incident. So, starting with the first part, on-site medical monitoring. Here, the designated on-site safety officer or any officer who is on the site or incident officer or another assigned individual, whosoever has the charge. We will not go in the detailing part that who is the incident commander, who is not, but here we will understand in that way whosoever is the designated officer who is responsibility for ensuring the presence of medical monitoring on site for monitoring the vital signals signs of emergency responders if circumstances require it. So he should be the person who is responsible to understand any type of medical emergency that can actually come into picture. On-site medical monitoring becomes obligatory whenever emergency responders are mandated to wear a level A PPE B PP. We will discuss later on about the level A and level B PPs and some more PPs. But yes, it is the obligate whenever emergency responders are going on, because the life of responders is as precious as the life of any other person in the world. So we have to focus upon this particular part. For effective monitoring, medical monitors need to be informed about the specific type of PP worn, enabling them to recognize potential PP-related hazards and devise an appropriate monitoring plan to safeguard emergency responders. As the line clearly quotes and understands that they should recognize the potential PP-related hazards. For example, if there is a boot they are wearing and it is not well protected and any agent or say any biological agents can enter the body, then what is the use of PP? It is very much obligatory that the whosoever is using the PP should know about the hazard associated while using the PP. Uh, if an emergency responder experience exposure or potential exposure to site contaminants such as breach in PP or the development of symptoms, seeking medical attention is imperative. So it is also the right of that particular person, and it should be the responsibility of the organization whosoever is sending any person on the site for catering situation, that they should know about the contaminations and what will happen if the BP is showing some uncertain symptoms. Subsequent medical monitoring will be conducted as determined by the occupational physicians administered by the medical surveillance program. So there is a protocol. If he is showing such a sign, then should properly and clearly address, okay, this is the symptom, this is the sign you are showing, and we have to focus upon this particular part only. Next is the PP training, which is one of the most important part. The primary goal of PP training is to acquaint emergency responders with the equipment in a non-hazardous environment, employing hands-on and classroom activities. Generally, what we do as an say trainers or as an trainers for the disasters, we generally quote for this particular part. Uh, we want that every whosoever is wearing this PP should be very properly equipped and trained for this thing. Why? Because if he's not able to understand about the equipment, about the hazardous environment, it will be very tough to respond in case of actual emergency or exigencies. The training aims to instill motivation among emergency responders to appropriately use and maintain PP. So during the peacetime, if he or she is able to use this PP in a proper way, a mannered way, then in case of emergency, definitely 99% chances that he will or she will respond on a very proper way. So training is much required. Similarly, as we all are trained in case of CBR and exigencies, definitely we will try to help whosoever is the organizations. Third, in this after medical and PP training, PP inspection, cleaning, maintenance, and storage. Again, the responsibility of acquiring personal protective equipment lies with the site coordinator or other designated individual following policies on standard issue equipment. Whenever feasible, it is recommended to procure and utilize single-use or disposable PP so that contaminants cannot be transferred to other place, and he uses himself in a very proper mannered way, productive way, and it should not be transferred so that if he single use is there, it is very easy to dispose of the single use material in comparison to reusable material. Individual emergency responders are tasked with carrying out these activities for the PP specifically assigned to them. Similar way that when you have seen the arrangements of say any paramilitary force or any police force or any armed forces, that designated equipments are there in the hands of the responders, say, policemen, say armed forces. So they know to handle the equipment which they are regularly practicing. Similar cases of the PP, whosoever is handling the regular way, they should easily understand what could be done and how to assess or inspect the PPs they are going to utilize. Now, in PP inspection, there are four terms as I have already quoted. PP inspection is the first part. In PP inspection, emergency responders are required to conduct regular inspections of the protective equipment, both before and after each use, to identify any defects or damage. The answer for this question is very clear, that we have to understand it should not be tear, it should not be break, it should not allow any other contaminants to enter. That is why it is very much required before using also, so that he should not contaminate himself, and after the use also, because he should not contaminate other people. Garments and other PP kept in storage should undergo inspections at least annually following the manufacturer's recommendations. So again, it's a big thing, because It is not evident that on a regular basis we are going to face this type of situation. Yes, it would be in once in a while. We never know when it is going to happen. But yes, at that time, obviously it is being kept in a storage room, or and due to the thing also, and because it is been kept for long, issues will come into picture. In the event of identified defects or damage, the equipment must be appropriately labeled as out of service, securely locked up, or promptly discarded, ensuring immediate removal from the work site. So, whatever is the condition, if you required, it should be discarded. It should be discarded. Never ever try to force anybody, or you use himself of any say out of service PPs, or if you think it is not in a proper way, it is showing any defects or damage, we have to clearly say we are not going to use this, neither we are going to force any of the responder, any of the person to go and utilize this broken, teared, or defected, damaged personal protective equipment. Next part is this in PP cleaning. Every emergency responders bears the responsibility of regularly cleaning their assigned personal protective equipment. Why? Because as we have quoted, it is your baby, you have to keep it very well, you know to handle, you are understanding the nature of this particular PP, which class of PP is this, and how to handle. To mitigate challenges related to decontaminating reusable PP when appropriate, emergency responders should be provided with a single use of PP, as I have already quoted. Clean and maintain PP in accordance with the manufacturer's guidelines. We can correlate it as an MSDS only. For example, manufacturer knows each and everything about the chemical, whatever he has produced, and he clearly indicates and mentions do's and don'ts in case of this thing. Similarly, case of PPs, the manufacturer knows which type of PP has to be used and how we have to use. So it is very much evident that we have to use in accordance with the manufacturer's guideline already quoted in advance. Prior to reissuing through sanitization of PP is mandatory. It should not be issued without sanitization. Again, it is mandatory. We have to cross check it is sanitized or not. If it is not sanitized, again, we will say go first sanitize it, then only it should be issued to any other person to use. And after each use, disassemble, wash, and sanitize reusable respirators. So it is not that okay, we have used, nothing had happened. It is very, very clearly stated that whenever you're using, even in case of mock drill also, you have to focus in that part, and you have to guide to your people, responders, to go wash and sanitize reusable respirators so that the contaminant cannot be passed on to some other peoples. PP storage. In this case also it is very much evident, because we are discussing that part, that storage generally all the PPs are kept only in case of mock size we generally use it, so it is kept for a long time. So there are certain SOPs which we have to focus upon. What is the SOPs? Encase goggles and safety glasses in protective cases for secure stages so that it shouldn't be broken. Store PP items such as helmets and boots in a clean, dust-proof containers or bags away from direct sunlight. Preferably maintain PP in climate controlled conditions, avoiding storage in extreme environmental conditions or vehicles, government owned or rentals for even short durations. Helmet should not be stored on the rear window shelf of a vehicle. So wherever it is written, actually again it is a part of SOP itself, but why we are quoting it again, when we talk about the agent part, we can, it is evident that certain chemicals, certain biological units is persistent, so it should be there on the say outer surface or surface of the material. So we have to focus upon all this part, and should be very clearly mentioned. Different type of clothing in accordance with the recommendations provided the manufacturers. Again, it's a big thing which I am quoting again. Never stored contained contaminated PP in proximity to new protective clothing or regular state clothing. Reusable clothing that may be potentially contaminated should be stored, usually bagged separately from a new PP in a well-ventilated area with ample air circulations around each item until the garment undergoes decontamination or disposable. So the storage is very, very clear instructions, and generally we fails in this particular segment only. We store, and when we use or reuse it, we generally think this is our perception. Okay, emergency has come into picture. Why not take the PPs from the storeroom and just reuse it and go in the incident site? But again, the probability is that if it is not clearly decontaminated, again there is a chance of being affected by the contaminant. Again, it's a secondary disaster for a person who is going to respond. So if he's not well equipped himself, then how he will respond? Next is PPE inspection and maintenance record. It should be very clear that we should maintain all the records whenever we have issued. Identification number of the clothing equipment item, such as item serial number, should be there. If it is not there, we have to keep in as per the records. Okay, this time it has been issued. It's a reissued. It should be on number basis or serial number basis, so that we can identify the particular PPs, inspection date, when it has been inspected, who have inspected, name of the inspector, what was the result. If it is okay, it's okay, we can use, and if it is not okay, try to discard or decon whatever is the procedure. Details of maintenance or repair conducted and any unusual conditions observed. So that the details should be there in the domain. Whosoever is going to use, or who or even the administration whosoever is to check it out, they should know what is the actual condition of any PP which we are going to use. So these are the four basic things which we have to focus upon. Cleaning, disposable, storage, inspection, maintenance, all should be taken into consideration before using or suggesting anybody go. You are very knowledgeable, you can directly say go and use SCBA. No, it's not like that. It is SCBA properly decontaminated. It has been kept on a very say safe environment. What is the inspection maintenance required? Country like India don't have n number of PPs for use that we can use every time, and we don't have, because we it is not, but it is not very evident na, in each and every time we have to face the situation. So we have to focus upon these SOPs so that we can protect ourselves also. Next, fitting, donning and doffing of PP. So if you can see this figure, you can easily see this figure. Material, donning, putting on the PP, and doffing, taking off the PP. So you can easily understand about the term donning and doffing. It is a quite familiar terms to the responders or the first responders, how to put the PP in, how to take off the PP. It is not very, say you say like what we wear sweater and we wear coats in the winter and we can take. No, it's not like that, because again it's a part and member of the particular system spectrum where it has to take a special care. So in three parts, how to take material and how to remove the material is a big thing. Don't consider it only as an apron or a suit or a small sweater type of thing. No, it's not like that. So talking about the definition part of fitting, fitting refers to the process of selecting and putting on PP that is appropriately sized and designed to provide effective protection. And the importance is that proper fitting ensures that the PP forms a secure and effective barriers against the identified hazards. PP may be compromised its protective capabilities and increase the risks to exposure. What is donning? Donning is again an act of putting on and properly wearing the self PP according to established procedures. It is not like that you are again it's an SOP. You have to wear what first, what second. You have seen the mock size. You can see the responders or the officials of the response mechanism. They first wear suits, then they wear socks, then they wear helmet. So there is a proper SOP 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to wear in this way so that the complete body of that particular sponge is closed. It should become a confined space so that none of the particles present in the atmosphere can enter or touch this particular responder. Or you can just put it as an equipment. It's an equipment. We have to wrap it out and then again re-wrap it out after the use. What is the procedure of donning? Donning involves following specific steps to wear each component of the PPE ensemble in the correct order. They may include putting on items such as gloves, suits, respirators, goggles, and other protective gear as we have discussed. Now, doffing. Doffing is the process of safely removing and disposing of PP after its use and resulting minimizing the risk of contamination. So, how to take off the PP is again a big thing. The term we use is doffing, so it is very quite easily termed that you can understand. Okay, donning and doffing should be there in the utilization of PP in any incident site. Again, the procedure of doffing is it requires following a systematic and careful procedures to avoid self-contaminations or spreading contaminants. It involves removing each component of the PP ensemble in a specified order, taking into account the potential presence of hazardous substances. You have seen the mock size. You can see when the responders goes into the incident site, they step by step takes the PPs, and similarly when they complete the task and come back to their original location after the response, you can see the section wise, segment wise system. Okay, they will first of all you will take your helmet, then helmet should be kept in a proper space. Then you will take your specs, then it should be kept, then your apron, then your say lower, then your shoes, socks, whatever is there, it is properly kept, and the process is called as doffing. So in a doffing emergency, in say donning doffing, emergency responders must be provided with appropriately sized personal protective equipment. Again, it's a big thing. If you are very fat, if you're thin, you have to be of that tight. Tight fitting garments, particularly at the knees, crotch, shoulders, backs, and elbows, can be prone to tearing. So we have to avoid all these things. Conversely, oversized clothing is susceptible to snagging and restricts the user's dexterity. The designated person is tasked with ensuring the following. You have seen the incident commander or the incident manager, whosoever is the overall, say, custodian of any team, who has to give the direction. Okay, this particular unit or body will go, then it will come. It is very much required. So in this case, maintaining an ample stock of appropriately sized PP covering level A, B, and C in symbols, as well as cold weather gear, all for emergency responders, and ensuring that all emergency responders undergo appropriate respirator fit tests. So it is again big thing that everybody should practice in advance before going to site. It is not like that you have seen any PP and just wear it as a cloth and go into the site. The designated person has the responsibility that he allow anybody to enter the zone and domain. The designated person on site is responsible for integrating site-specific procedures for donning and doffing PP into safety plans. Again, there should be a protocol. Just as I have already quoted, if in case the professional or this person is not there and it is an emergency and somebody has to respond, the second 2 ICO second command will come into picture and he will see, okay, there is an SOP. Even might he is not aware and he was not in the overall response mechanism, but when he takes the site, when he becomes in charge, he will try to read this SOP only, then he can respond in a proper way. This procedure again may vary depending on the type of ensemble responders are utilizing. It is again essential to incorporate site-specific donning and doffing procedures, considering the potential need for an assistant. Attempting to don and doff certain types of PP without assistance may pose risks and equipment failure or damage. You have seen this if you are changing the canister, and if some responder is changing the canister on his own, there might be a potential say contamination of that particular person. So again, we generally suggest that there should be a buddy system, and the next person can easily change do not doff the particular PP. Care must be exercised to prevent the spread of contamination of the PP, and decontamination procedures should aim to minimize the potential for cross contaminations, including the gross decontaminations of outer boots, gloves, and suits, as needed to prevent the tracking of contaminants into the contamination reduction zone (CRZ) and the clean zone. So these the terminologies where focus upon all this. Now, last part of this, controlling the hazards associated with the use of PP. In the left side, you can easily see what are the hazards associated by the PP use of PP. First thing is heat-related illness, heat stress or heat stroke, because the temperature inside the PP is very much. So this is the first thing that anybody who is going to handle this PP, because he has to wear because again the body becomes a confined space. You cannot, the air is not allowed to go outside inside. It is the internal temperature of the body or internal mechanism of the body that has to maintain and had to maintain the inner temperature. And dehydration, exhaustion, limited visions, restricted mobility, all these things are causes which we can see in general criteria also, that the responders face, whosoever is using the PP. Increased risk of slip, trip, fall incidents. Slip, trip, or fall hazards are the most common safety hazards on EPA field actions. So in Environmental Protection Act also, it is very much pertinent that these are things, because you are covering yourself with a very big amount of heavy material, and you have to also respond. Then you have to use some equipment also for handling the crisis. Increased risk of bump struck by incidents due to limited visibility. Psychological stress, that is fully encapsulating suits, can aggravate claustrophobia, and the impaired ability to communicate, because confined space, if you keep in mind the confined space, it is not easily to communicate in and out with the third party, because you are already in a system which has to live in that particular zone itself. What happened? The magnitude of hazard depends on the factors like fitness level, type of PP, work demands, individual practices, mission duration, and environmental conditions. So this is the particular magnitude of hazard which depends on these factors. PP can lead to reduced efficiency and work performance. Recommended measures include treating PP as the last line of defense, maintaining physical fitness, and being aware of the symptoms of PP failure, and implementing the buddy system is advised for monitoring gear integrity and identifying symptoms of PP failure. So buddy system is very good system wherein the our body knows that with the signal or with the say spectrum which we are showing, which he can see, if the person who is using PP is not able to communicate properly, then with the signs and symptoms uh, from the PP user can be utilized to understand or ascertain, okay, what this type of conditions is going to come. So it is very much required that we focus upon this body system. It is much required for any case of incident response. Now, hazard that necessitate the use of personal protective equipment. Now, you will ask the question, why PPE? We can go anywhere in any chemical or biological something and enter the zone, and we can easily take care of the situation or handle the situation. No, it is not like that. You can very easily see in this PPT that there are certain hazards that requires the use of PPE at site. Hazards could be chemical hazards, solid, liquid, gas, aerosol, particle, dust, smoke, fume, mist, vapor, which we already discussed in the earlier lectures. Biological hazards may be aerosols, liquid particles, fire and explosion hazards, oxygen deficiency. Example again, it's a confined space entry. Electrical hazards, safety hazards would be there like sharps, pinching objects, struck by or struck against hazards, moving machinery, tools or vehicles, etc. Ionizing and non-ionizing radiation hazards, heat or cold exposure, high altitudes, noise and vibration. So you can see multiple types of hazards when we have to use the PPE. It's not like that you say okay we can go. We have seen in the COVID phase also that all doctors are quite equipped while handling the COVID patients. Why? It is not that everybody will be sick because depending upon the stamina or say capacity of the body, but yes, these all are the hazards that are there in the incident zone where we have to focus upon and where we have to very cautiously use the PP so that the whosoever the responder can very easily respond and can easily mitigate any hazard with the use of PP. Next, major risks of PPs: air concentrations exceeding the permissible exposure limits and recommended occupational exposure limits, IDLH concentrations, dermal contact hazards from toxics and corrosive material, skin absorptions and irritation, eye or mucous membrane irritation, explosion flammability, uh, explosion sensitivity, flammability, oxygen deficiency or enrichment, or splash hazard. So you can easily say we have to focus upon n number of these. And the basic part is the concentration that is immediately dangerous to life or health. So we have to focus on this particular part, that what is the exposure occupational exposure limit. See, whenever we are going to respond, again, it's an occupational hazards only. That somebody who is quite talented is going to a confined space or zone we are here to focus upon. So these are the risks when we are using a PP. Again, it will the conditions you can say. These conditions are basically the conditions that exposes that exposes a major threat to cause death or say delayed permanent deficiency. All these things are there. So wherever you're using PPS, it can happen to anybody. It is not that okay you are very fit, very you are utilizing for a long time, but again these all things are there which you have to focus upon. Eye irritation is common thing, and oxygen deficiency and enrichment is again a very big thing of concern which we have seen during the utilization of PP on site. So all these things should be taken into consideration. Now, how to set the PP? We understood, okay, it's a cloth, it's a goggle, it's a, say, shoes and whatever things, but there is a selection procedure which we have to focus upon, and how to ascertain that this particular PP is quite good for us and we can utilize it any place. So, how to go for this part is the objective. The objective in selecting personal protective equipment is to align the level of protection with the extent and type of hazards. As we have seen the number of hazards, we have to focus upon hazard-specific PP. Utilizing PP introduces significant health and safety risks such as heat stress, physical strain, psychological stress, and limitations in vision, mobility, and communication. Again, psychological stress is a very big thing because a person who is going in a incident zone is very much stressed. In case of if his only support is the quality and the quality or the nature of the PP. If the PP is good, fair enough, the PP could protect him, then only he can respond properly and he could help somebody else. So that is why it is very much required that he should not be psychological stress. He should be very much confident that whatever PP use is helpful for him. Typically, highly protective PP is more restrictive, which ensembles with less protection and offer more flexibility. Again, it is crucial to avoid both overly protective and insufficiently protective PP, as both can pose hazards. When selecting PP, particularly chemical protective clothing, the designated person should Consider the relative cost of single-use versus reusable CPC. It's a big concern that we have to focus upon this particular part also. Although the initial cost of single-use PP may be higher, the cost of decontaminating reusable equipment can make the total cost more expensive in the long term. So again, whenever you are say focusing upon some person, or you are telling that your management, we have to focus upon this part, so we can use a very expensive PP. It is not very recommended in any form, but yes, you can just guide them. We can use this type of PP at any place. What are the components of the protective equipment? So the personal protective equipment is designed to provide protection from CBR and vapors, gases, liquids, particulates, and aerosols threats encountered during hazardous materials emergency incident. It includes percutaneous protection, that is protective ensembles, suits or coveralls, footwear and gloves, and respiratory protection, that is APR, PAPR, SCB, and escape respirators. In the later slides, we will discuss all these things: PAPR, SCB, and escape respirators. The PP components and elements should be designed, certified, and deployed as a system providing full body protection. This is our basic need that we have. It is a system. This thing, it not, don't think only it's a human being. Again, when this human being or a responder reveres this, again it becomes a system. This is particularly important when the respiratory is exposed to the hazard environment and provides thermal as well as inhalation protection. The system approaches assures that component interfaces, seams, and closures are designed and tested as a complete system, so that in any case, for example, your correct, your helmet is not correct, your gloves are not correct, it should be considered a system. Just like we go for the process safety part, this is the same thing. And just a quotation is there: over 80% of materials used in PP by firefighters originates from petrochemicals. Now, what is percutaneous protection? This is the first question. Percutaneous protection provides skin protections from a harmful physical or chemical exposure as a result of a chemical, biological, or disciplinary incidents. What is ensembles? It is complete percutaneous protection, or ensemble consists of a protective garments, that is suit or coverall, footwear, gloves, and respiratory equipment. That is complete set of protection which is mentioned in this. And ensembles focus upon complete percutaneous protection. That means your complete skin is being protected. None of the point is exposed, and none of the agents can enter in that particular, say, in a particular PP. Next is the protective garments. Protective garments, sometimes referred to as coveralls, but more commonly referred to as a protective suits, are the basic unit of overall protection. Similarly, we can see in COVID case also, government was focusing on, rather responders are focusing upon such type of materials which can stop pathogens to transfer, blood pathogens rather. So it should not be allowed that it should be transferred from one person to another. These garments come in a myriad of configurations depending on the requirements of the overall protective ensemble. Protective garments may be completely encapsulating and include an attached hood, visor, gloves, and booties. Other coveralls may have separate and or attached hoods, separate and or attached gloves, and or separate and or attached booties, or a combination of hood, gloves, and booties. So it could be a separate thing about a separate hood, separate gloves, separate booties. But right now, it should what we can ascertain, and it is must required that it should be a system, so that only one zip is sufficient to close all the contaminants to enter inside the PP. However, the certified ensemble must be certified with specific component elements. So, as per the requirement, for example, you are talking about the chemical agents, then you are talking about the blister agents, talking about the nerve agent or the biological pathogens, whatever is there. So, we have to focus upon that part, that it should not be allowed. But the overall, this thing is, it should not contaminate your or expose your skin. Protective footwear. Protective footwear, also referred to as protective boots, provides foot protection, either complete severe protection on its own or additional chemical barrier protection as an overboot. Boots are a component of a protective ensemble and can be purchased with the ensemble or purchased separately. Depends on the condition. What is the condition? Are you going to be exposed on upper body part or the lower body part? It is up to you, wherever you want to go. It is important to note that some standards may require specific boots to be worn and be certified ensembles. Fourth is protective gloves. Protective gloves provide hand protection and can include inner gloves and outer gloves as well as sleeves. Gloves are an important component of a protective ensemble either attached to garment or purchased separately. It is very much important because we have to work everything through our hands. You can see in this particular figure also that hand is being used to open or close any kind of leakage. So it is much required. We have to focus upon this part. And for the boots also, we can usually see that boot is also required. It should be as per the requirement of the conditions. Either way, if gloves are used with certified ensemble, the gloves must be certified as a part of the ensemble. And it is again important to note that some standards do require specific gloves to be worn with certified ensembles. Depending upon this, for example, there is blister agents or there is a solvent type of material, then it's very much required that we have to focus upon this particular part only. Now we have seen the skin part. Now for the respiratory protection, these are the figures which we have seen. These type of equipments have been used. It is basically respiratory protection. So personal respiratory protection systems or respirators, by this figure we can easily ascertain, provide the protection the first responders require by preventing the inhalation or harmful airborne substance and or an oxygen deficient atmosphere. So these are things from which they have to take. Oxygen is much required, so they have to focus upon this part until unless enough efficient oxygen is inbuilt in the suit itself. But if you require some other type of thing, then respirator is much required. Respiratory protection is provided by the APRs, PAPRs, SCABA or escape respirators. Each type of respirator has specific uses and limitations and should not be substituted for another. So don't figure it out that okay, we have a number of things, we just assemble or deassemble and use in this way. Supplied respirators such as SCABA should be used in an unknown or above IDLH hazard environments. Air filtering respirators such as APR or PAPR should only be used when the hazards has been identified and below the IDLH value. So IDLH value is quite defined in each and every domain, so we can utilize it is on a very easy note. Air purifying respirators, again, air purifying respirators contain a filter, cartridge, or canister that removes specific air contaminants by filtering, absorbing, or chemical reaction through the chemical absorbing or chemical reactions with the contaminants as they pass through the respirator, canister, or cartridge. So you can see in this particular figure that these type of things are there which will be generally used. Since APRs do not supply oxygen, they must only be used when the surrounding atmosphere contains sufficient oxygen, that is 90.5 to 23.5% by volume, to sustain life, and the air contaminant level is below the concentration limits of the APR, that is air purifying respirator. So air purifying respirator is very clear. We have to use the cartridge system, and we have to focus upon this particular part itself. Next is PAPR, or first we have studied APR. Now PAPR is powered air purifying respirator. Again, PAPR is an APR that uses battery power and a blower to force ambient atmosphere through air purifying elements or filter to an inlet covering. The component of PAPR includes a respiratory face piece, a helmet, hood or blouse, a blower unit with a blower to draw air into the unit through the air inlet and to deliver air to the air outlet, a holder to contain the blow unit, a detachable filter cartridge connected to the air inlet of the blow unit, and a detachable breathing tube connected at one end of the air outlet of the blow unit and connected to the other end of the respiratory mask. So you can see in this figure, if you break this in three components, this is the first component, this is a tube component, this is the third component for giving the pressure, or which is basically powered. So we have to focus upon this particular part. So APR there. Then air purifier respirator use canisters. It is more manual powered. It is there for which uses a battery power. Now SCABA you have understood and learned and number things about the SCABA, self-contained breathing apparatus. It is an atmosphere supplying respirator, provides clean breathing air from the uncontaminated source depending on the surrounding atmosphere rather than removing contaminants from the atmosphere. It is an open circuit atmosphere supplying respirator that provides breathing air from a cylinder of very pure dry compressed air which is held in a frame that is worn back. This is the particular thing which have fresh, very pure and dry compressed air which is being used by the responders or the response agencies. It is being kept on your back, and whenever they require, they use this particular thing so that none of the other contaminant or toxic material should enter the body, and the responder whosoever is going should use this. And SCABA is very commonly used right now in case of chemical agents and hazardous material where the contamination or exposure is too much. It is being used quite rapidly in each and every spectrum. Now, escape respirators, you can see the figure, the yellow one and also this open one. It is again escape respirators or escape hoods or escape masks are designed to protect against breathing harmful gases, vapors, fumes, and dust for a limited amount of time in an emergency situation. It is not that you can go and respond very frequently. It is only for saving yourself in case of any hazardous or vapor fumes or harmful gases. Escape respirators can be designed as an APER or air purifying escape respirator or a SCBA self-contained apparatus type respirator. The SCABA type escape respirator has a hood and that provides a barrier against the contaminated outside air and an attached source of breathing air. The APER or air purifying escape respirator has a filter canister mounted on the hood to filter out harmful contaminants before the air is breathed. It is very simple that it will restrict the entrance of any harmful gases to enter inside the human body, and it will be very helpful if you have a very small type of contaminants. Next, levels of PP. As we are focusing on the earlier slide about the levels of PP, there are the classifications level A, B, C, and D. So, selection of depending on the situation, which type of PP is required in your emergency situations or by the first responders. Selection of the PP ensembles. Ensembles again a group of materials in different say should be assembled in one form. Selection of PP ensembles requires some interpretation and full consideration of all site conditions. No single protective assemble is capable of protecting against all hazards. So if there is a decision from your management organization or wherever, it can be used for each and every hazards. It can be used for the C part, B part, R and R part. It is not like that. There is no single protective ensemble is made which can handle each and every situation. PP levels could result in exposure above acceptable levels or unnecessary overprotection, resulting in reduced operational effectiveness due to lack of mobility, decreased dexterity, or reduced mission duration. In the context of CBRI emergencies, different levels of PPE are used to provide varying degrees of protection against the respective hazards. These levels are often categorized from level A to level P. Level ABCD is P will discuss on the P is basically again we have discussed, but again we will discuss in the next slide with each level offering a special level of protections. Here is a general overview of all levels. First, level A. So left, focusing on the left slide, protection, it is the highest level of protection. So right now it is the highest, it provides highest level of protection to the user. Components are totally encapsulating chemical protective suits, full face self-contained breathing apparatus, SCABA, chemical resistant gloves, and chemical resistant boots. So talking about the chemical part, whenever somebody asks which is required, level is the requirement and is the highest level of protection for the chemical agents or chemical safety part. The purpose it is being used in situations with the highest levels of potential hazards where a high level of respiratory, skin and eye protection is required. The use of level A protection may be justified if any of the following criteria are met. First, hazardous substances have been identified and require the highest level of protection for skin, eyes and respiratory system. At the atmospheric contains less than 19.5% oxygen. Site operations involves a high potential of splash, skin immersion, or exposure to suspected skin hazards. Operations are being conducted in a confined, poorly ventilated areas, and the presence of life-threatening or highly toxic substance in the air has not yet been ruled out. Direct reading instruments indicate high levels of unidentified but potential hazardous vapors or gases in the air, and direct reading instruments are not available to test the air and suspected highly toxic substances may be present. So, on an layman language where we know that we cannot do anything, it is a high level of exposure of chemical, then we should advise or use level A PPs. It may not be it may be necessary to base the decision to use the level A protection or indirect evidence. Other conditions that may indicate the need of level A protection include confined space, suspected or known highly toxic substances, especially when field equipment is not available to test concentrations or concentrations are below IDLH levels, as in case of some chemical warfare agents. Visible indicators such as leaking containers or smoking chemical fires, or potentially dangerous tasks such as initial site entry. So this is very much important part which we have to focus upon wherever we are suggesting or using the level A PP. Recommended level A ensemble components are: first is respirator, it should be positive pressure full phase piece SCABA or positive pressure supplied air respirator with escape SCABA. Next component is suit, totally encapsulated chemical and vapor protective suit. Inner globe should be lightweight. Outer globe's integral part of suits. Inner boot again is an integral part of suit. Outer boot, hazmat boot, hazardous material boot is there, and hard hat standard. So this is the ensemble. If somebody asks you which type of ensemble or which type of equipment you require to develop a level A ensemble, you can easily say we want respirator, suit, inner gloves, inner boot, outer boot, and hard hat, which have this type of particular specifications or configuration. So that in case of very highly hazardous environment, we can use this type of ensemble. That is level A ensemble. Now, after level A, level B is there. Level B talks about high respiratory protections, lesser skin protection compared to level A. Obviously, on a small note, after level B, the component are again chemical resistant suit, SCABA or supplied air respirator, SAR, chemical resistant gloves or chemical resistant boots. So everything is there. We have to focus upon. The purpose is suitable for situation with potentially respiratory hazards but less skin and eye hazards compared to level A, allows for a greater range of motion. Level B protection is required when site conditions warrant the highest level of respiratory protection but less than the level A skin protection is needed. So if you go for the bifurcation part, level is clearly the condition where we don't have any options. But in level B, if level is not present and we can ascertain the situation, level B can be used. It is the minimum level of PP recommended for performing initial site entries until the hazards have been adequately characterized. So whenever you are able to characterize, then only we will recommend the utilization of level B PP. Any of the following circumstances may warrant the use of level B protection. First is the type and atmospheric concentrations of substances have been identified and require a high level of respiratory protection. Skin protection less than level A is needed when you ascertain and know level A is there, then you have to focus upon or compare that level A is required or not, and only you can suggest or give directions for the utilization of level B PP. Atmospheric atmosphere contains less than 19.5% oxygen and the presence of incompletely identified vapors and gases is indicated, but they are not suspended of being harmful to the skin or will not readily penetrate level B suit material. So these are the characteristics which we have to focus upon whenever we suggest somebody for the utilization of level B types of PPE. Again, the question arises about the recommended level B ensemble components. The same things are there. It is a respirator, suit, inner gloves, inner boot, outer boot, covering hard hat. So respirator should again have positive pressure, full face piece SCABA or positive pressure supplied air respiratory with escape SCABA. So again, it is quite similar. I'm clearly quoting you. There is a very minute difference between level A and level B. Should have a type chemical resistant clothing, liquid splash protective suit with integral boot and hood. It should be integrated inside. Inner glove should be light or medium weight. Outer gloves medium heavy weight. Inner boot safety work boot and outer boot covering should be of heavy weight latex booties or outer boots. Hard hat could be standard. So these are the recommendations which we can focus upon regarding the ensemble components of level B. You can easily ascertain or see that there is not much difference between level A and level B. But yes, depending on the cost part also, which we have discussed in the earlier slide, if we have something, because we cannot purchase each and every number of level A, and the situation also does not demand always the utilization of level A in each and every situation. So level B can be used where A to B, in between A to B is there. Third is level C. The protection part in this is primarily respiratory protections with reduced skin and eye protections. So it can be somewhat compromised. The components again is full face or half face air purifying respirators, that is called as APR, chemical resistant coveralls, chemical resistant gloves, and chemical resistant boots. The purpose is used when the concentration and type of airborne substances are known and the criteria using air purifier met. So this will focus upon. Again, level C protection is required when the concentration and type of airborne substances is known. If you are knowing the type of material because you are handling and you know that this type of leakage has been taken place, it could be used, and the criteria for using air purifying respirators are met. The main difference between level C and B is the type of respiratory protection required. So this could be asked anytime. What is the difference? Why you are using? Level B protection includes positive pressure, full face piece SCABAs or positive pressure supplied air respirators with escape SCABA. And level C protection includes full face piece and air purifying respirators. So this could be the difference you can easily say regarding the things which we have to focus on. Protection includes full face piece Here again Scaba with positive pressure in full face Scaba is there. So you can see the slide, the difference is also there, but not a very big difference, a minute difference in both the levels of B and C. The same type of chemical resistant clothing is used for both levels B and C. Meeting any of the following criteria may warrant use of level C protection. First, the atmospheric contaminants, liquid splashes, or other potential direct contact with the site's hazards will not adversely affect or be absorbed by the skin. The types of air contaminants have been already identified, and do not exceed IDLS levels, and an air purifying respirator is available that can remove the contamination. So again, it's a point which we have taken here. Oxygen concentrations are not less than 19.5% by volume, and job functions do not require SCABA. So whenever SCABA is not required, we can suggest somebody that okay, level C is there, and we can use this thing. Component left hand side is quite clear. Respirator suit, inner gloves to hard hat is there, and type is the difference. In case of respirator, it should be have full face air purifying respirators with appropriate cartridge, which cartridge is required, and we have to use it. Suits, puncture, tear resistant suit material with boot and hood. Lightweight inner glove should be recommended. Medium heavyweight outer glove is recommended. Safety work boot, inner boot is recommended, and heavyweight latex booties or outer boots for outer boot covering. Hard hat as situations, it should be a standard hard hat that can be utilized in case of the PP in this particular case. Level D, the protection is minimal typically for nuisance contaminations, not for a very big hazardous attack, incident, or this type of thing. Component is regular working clothes, no respiratory or skin protection required. Gloves as needed, safety glasses or goggles. So it's a very minimal type of thing which we require. Purpose of this level D is used when no respiratory or skin hazards were present and basic work clothing is sufficient. So we can easily say, okay, this material is not going to penetrate the material, and if even penetrated, it is not very dangerous to the skin. That particular part is there, and if it is not there, we can easily say normal clothing could be required. Level D is the minimum protection required. Level D protection is sufficient under the following conditions. First condition, no hazardous air with contaminants are present above permissible exposure limits after a thorough site characterization, and due to the nature of the work operations, there are no potential hazards from the splashes, immersions, or unexpected inhalation or contact with hazardous levels of chemicals. So it is a very low level, type of thing where we generally requires, we know the nature of the chemical, how will it propagate, what will be the effect on the workers. So this type of level is being utilized. Again, the recommended level D assembly components is respirator not required, suit, coveralls, street gloves or disposable suit, inner gloves not applicable, outer gloves as appropriate for physical hazards and for comfort, whatever the workers or responders requires. Boot should be of steel composite toe, outer boot covering and hard hat as appropriate, and eye protection, safety glasses and goggles is sufficient whenever we are going to use it for the recommended level D and several components. Now the level P which we have already discussed P as PAPRs. This is basically powered air purification respirator, similar to level C, but involves the use of PAPR. Level C plus utilization of powered air purification respirator is in level P. Components are PAPR with hood and helmet. Chemical resistant coveralls is required. Chemical resistant gloves and boots are required. The overall purpose of this level P is to provide respiratory protection with enhanced comfort and extended wear time compared to a standard air purifier respirator. So you can see in this figure also the comfort increases because we are getting a powered air purifier respirator. It is not that we have to regularly intervene manually, and utilization can be very easily seen whenever we are using the level P type of thing. So we have seen the A, B, C, D is the highest, and D is the last, but P is in between when we want to utilize level C plus. If there is a requirement of power air purification supply or respirator, then we can utilize this particular thing during the incident scenes. Now, PP, there is one more thing that we have to focus upon. Now we have to focus upon the ground type, but what about the water part? So PP on site work on or near water. Again, it's a big thing. We cannot say that the incident will happen only on the land. If you are on the water also, then there is a impact. So emergency responders respond to incidents such as oil spills, where there is risk to be drowning from falling or being pulled into the water. Again, we have to focus upon that particular PPs. When working on, over, or close to the edge of a water source, emergency responders must always wear an appropriate personal flotation device or PFD. So personal flotation device is also required. It's a part of PP. It is also referred to as life jackets, life preservers, life vests, protection suits, and others have different characteristics and are available in different sizes and styles for various levels of protection. Regulations pertaining to the use of PFDs, personal protection device, vary depending on the type of activity and the authority having jurisdiction. So whenever we are focusing on a chemical agent attack or incident or leakage, then also it is not certain that it will not happen in the water. So in case of water, we see an additional thing which we have to focus upon. It is personal protection device. It should be there with the responders whenever they enter this type of zonation. Now, flotation characteristics of PFDs, we have already put it here, type 1 to type 5, but we will define only the design characteristics of PFDs. First thing, inherently buoyant, primarily foam. The most reliable part is this, available in variable and throwable styles, designed for swimmers and non-swimmers. So again, whenever a responder is going with for facing the situation, then we have to focus on this part. Next is the inflatable, the most compact, lightweight, and comfortable, available in variable styles. Only some styles have best in water performance, designed for swimmers. And hybrid, foam and inflatable. It is reliable, provided inherent and inflatable buoyancy, available in variable styles only, and designed for both swimmers and non-swimmers. Talking about the type, there are 5 types of PFDs. First is offshore life jacket, over 20-pound buoyancy, designed for an unconscious person for face up. Type 2, non-shore buoyant vest, a minimum 15.5 pounds of buoyancy, designed to turn on unconscious persons face up. Type 3, flotation 8, a minimum 15.5 pounds of buoyancy, not designed to turn on unconscious person face up, more comfortable for water sports. Type 4, throwable device, minimum 16.5 pounds of buoyancy, designed for grasp, not fall. And type 5, special use device, must be used in accordance with any requirements on the approved level. So these are the PFDs which we have to focus upon, personal protection device, and much required, because when we enter this type of zone, we have to focus upon this part also regarding the PFDs. So now then there are certain types of PFDs which I have already focused again, talking about a broader note. First is type 1, offshore life jackets, provides the most buoyancy, effective for all waters, especially open, rough or remote waters where rescue may be delayed, designed to turn on unconscious wearer to face up position in the water. Type 2, near shore buoyancy vest, intended for calm, inland waters or where there is a good chance of quick rescue, will turn some unconscious wearers to a face up position in water by the turning in, not as pronounced as type 1 device, turns as well as type 1 foam jacket. Third, flotation aids, good for calm inland waters or wherever there is a good chance of quick rescue. Again, I am telling you this because sometimes we have to focus upon this part also, and our rescuers, responders have to enter this type of zone. Integration is a big thing, and it is again challenge to use PFDs along with the PPs. But yes, we have to focus upon this part also. Turn as well as type 2 foam vest, but may not turn as unconscious wearer face up. Wearer may have to tilt this her head back to remain in face up position. Type 3 foam vest have same minimum buoyancy as type 2 device, available in many styles, color sizes. Generally, the most comfortable for continuous wear includes float coats, full sleeve jackets, fishing vests, and vests with features suitable for activities. Throwable device, this is the type 4, can be used anywhere, designed to be thrown to a person in the water and grasped and held by the user until rescued. Not designed or intended to be worn, includes ring bears, buoyant cushions, and horseshoe bears. And the last is special use device, which we have discussed earlier also, designed for specific activities and must be worn and used in accordance with the approval level, provides the performance of a type 1, 2, or 3 devices as marked on the approval level. Examples include deck shoes, work vest, or sailing vest with a safety harness. Some type 5 devices provide significant hypothermia protection also. Now, emergency decontaminations of PP. Emergency decontamination is again big requirement and may be necessary in the event of fire, explosion, sudden violent storm, medical emergency, etc. The emergency decontamination plan must designate emergency routes of egress as well as emergency decon and egress procedures. Gross contamination should be removed from PP and placed in specifically designated containers. The designated persons must be informed immediately of the circumstances requiring emergency decontaminations and account for all personnel. If urgent medical treatment is required, decontaminations of PP may be delayed until the victim is stabilized. If decontaminations can be performed without interfering with essential first aid, or if the worker has been contaminated or the responder has been contaminated with an extremely toxic or corrosive material that could cause severe injury or death to the victim or first aid providers, decontamination should be undertaken immediately. It depends on the situation where we decon we have done, because it is not certain that every person who is entering a confined space or hazardous environment is very safe even after the utilization of PP. So decon is very much required. If a heat-treated illness develops, protective clothing must be removed as soon as possible, following proper protocols. Emergency facilities for quick drenching or flushing of the eyes and body must be provided if workers may be exposed to corrosive materials, and emergency facilities for drenching and flushing must be readily accessible on site if workers may be exposed to other splash or dust hazards that could cause injuries to eye or body. So overall mechanism or requirement of decon is that workers should be safe and quite fit for any case, and we have to save his life also. Chemical removal after decon. Reusable PP typically requires more extensive decontamination than gross decontamination before being put back to service. The methods listed below do not apply to single-use items, as they could be disposed of before the stage. PP decontaminations with chemicals must be undertaken only under the supervision of an industrial hygienist or other qualified safety and health professionals, and in accordance with the equipment manufacturer recommendations. So what are things required, or the methods? Solvents to disposable contaminants. The selected solvent must not damage the PP. For example, CPC made with organic materials is readily degraded by organic solvents such as alcohols, ethers, ketones, and commercial petroleum products. Even halogenated solvents are toxic and incompatible with most types of PP and must be used only when other solvents are ineffective. So this should be taken into mind consideration. Surfactants again prevent recontaminations by minimizing additions of contaminants. Common surfactants such as household detergents can be used with organic solvents to improve the effectiveness of the removal. So it had been already defined. Rinsing. Continuous rinsing with large volumes of solutions can be very effective in removing contaminants and disinfection or sanitizations. Although chemical sanitizers are practical means of inactivating infectious agents, standard sterilization techniques are generally impractical for large equipment and PP. For this reason, disposable PP is recommended for the use of infectious agent, as we have seen in the COVID protocol that every PP, disposable PP were used, and it has been disposed of very properly, so that infection should not propagate anywhere. Now, the last section of this particular presentation is record keeping of PPs. It is must required that record keeping should be properly addressed. Record keeping after the use of personal protective equipment in severe and emergencies, particularly for chemical and biological emergencies, is a very vital component of post-incident management. Following such incidents, detailed records should be maintained and are maintained to document crucial information. This includes specific PPE usage such as date, time, and duration of deployment during the chemical warfare agent event or biological warfare agent event. Individual assignments are recorded to track which responders utilize the PP. Incident details, including the type of chemical agents involved and the response locations, are documented for reference. Again, it is a big case study for each and every of us whosoever in the field, that what actually happens and in how much time they have responded, properly responded, there are issues or not. Decontamination procedures applied to the PP inspection and any maintenance activities performed post usage are carefully recorded. Contaminations assessments, personal health monitoring data, and disposal information for components that cannot be effectively contaminated are again documented. These records serve as a comprehensive account of emergency response, offering insights of lesson learned, regulatory compliance, and continual improvements of the PP protocol. The accessibility and security of these records are crucial for subsequent reviewing, audits, and ongoing training efforts. So all these things has clearly mentioned that record keeping is very much important component. It is not like that you have used or address utilization of PP and you have discarded in a very haphazard way. It should be recorded very properly, because this particular protection is very much required. The responder enters the zone, he came out of the zone, he has saved the life. So recording for all these things must record how he has saved. It could be very much required that we all have to focus upon this part, and the data, the information utilized after the using of PP can be very helpful for the next step, and it could be very easily used for any case studies. So with this, thank you and Jai Hind. So any questions, you can just mail me through HBNI, and I am here to address all the questions required regarding the PPs. So with this again, I thank you all for patiently listening to my lecture. Thank you, and again, Jai Hind.